There was a question around can keeping constant pressure be an effective tactic in ITF just like it is in MMA? And I quite like that one.
Yeah, like there's some ITF fighters who do this really well. Again, it depends on your style and how you approach it. Having that bigger ring and the idea of warnings as well means that we can do it, and it's possible and quite effectively if you can do it correctly. It's maybe not something that we see so much. I think personally it's just the speed of our sport is so quick that it's very difficult to pin somebody down, and not because we don't have the ropes and a set area that we have to stay inside. It can be very difficult to almost pin somebody because they can just exit, take that 1 meter back in, and then that gives them space to readjust and reset, maybe back to the center or in more open space. But certainly it's an effective tool if you can be able to build those warnings on the exits in particular.
Yeah.
And if you can squeeze that space, so the more you can squeeze that space, you'll probably be at an advantage.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to reimagine pressure. It's not about staying all over your opponent all the time, because they can always choose to slow the match down by, as you said, by falling, by having an exit, by clinching. All of those bring in our referees, and our referees then have to break the match. They have to issue a warning. It buys 3 or 4 seconds of a break, maybe more, and you're back into it again. So it's very hard to maintain consistent pressure in that sense. But momentum is a huge mental pressure that we can build, and I think that that's a very effective strategy in ITF. So when we discussed it when we were talking about the blitz, and where a blitz can be a score, you can move your opponent to the edge of the ring, and potentially they could travel and concede a warning. So you have potentially a score, a partial score in the warning, and ring position as an advantage. And when that starts to build up and you have that happen, maybe 2 or 3 scores without an answer, whatever, the momentum of that can build a mental pressure, and that is something that we see the whole time, that competitors don't come back from that mental pressure very well. So,
and I think actually another point on that as well is when you think of it like MMA, a lot of time you'll see people with that stance of full facing, like we mentioned earlier, and the hands high approach.
Yeah.
And that's probably not something that's realistic in range of dynamic kicks in particular that can fit through that guard and to hit you when you have that big open target. It's not as applicable as such. And also when you're in that more side facing stance, your mobility is not the same as if you're full facing, so it's hard to build that forward pressure, especially if there's some outlets there that people can get out to open space.